Welcome back. Akintunde Bada Johnson joins us now in the studio. Good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning, Cecilia. Thanks for having me.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We haven't seen him since that Neymar episode. Okay,
of course, we're going to...
See, I'm wearing PSG colors deliberately this morning.
Okay, you're one of the supporters that have been bought over, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, before we go to Neymar, and because that's done, dusted already, that's settled. Alexis Sanchez, future still up in the air. If you ask a lot of people, the coach insists he's not going anywhere, despite having just 1 year left on his contract, which means he's going to go on a free next year.
Yeah.
But recently, just yesterday, he was ruled out of that game, the opener against Leicester, with an abdominal strain. And Cecilia here was asking, what's the big deal about an abdominal strain? So perhaps you can shed a bit of light on that one. Yeah, but sorry, I had to expose you there. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's a legitimate injury.
Yeah, it's a legitimate injury, and had Alexis Sanchez not been enmeshed in this, transfer speculations and all, we wouldn't be reading much into that. He was rested for the Community Shield game against Chelsea last weekend. Here's a guy who's played every summer for like about 4 consecutive years now. Since the last World Cup, I think he's played Copa America twice consecutively. Wow. He's played in the Confederations Cup this year.
Correct.
So he needs rest, because once it gets going, it's like the Duracell bunny. He never wants to stop. But the question is, how on earth did Arsenal allow this guy to get into the final year of his contract? Their best player by a long mile. And they know that allowing him go into the final year of his contract means that if he's not going for a big, money move this summer, he'll be going for absolutely nothing next summer. And there is no club in their right senses that would make a big money move for Alexis in the January transfer window, when all they have to do is wait another 5 months to get him on a free. So Arsenal have put themselves in a position where they are literally at the mercy of the player.
Do you think what Arsene Wenger keep insisting that he will stay, they're not going to let him go? Is that a good way? What if he stopped maybe playing very well for the team, trying not to cop injury and all that, and issues like that? What if it happens?
Well, Alexis Sanchez is a honest professional. He's not the kind of player who will throw tantrums and refuse to play football. He looks to me like, a Messi kind of player, where you put a round leather object, it doesn't even have to be football, in front of him. He just wants to kick it and keep playing. But again, these professionals have a lot of people around them, managers, specialists who focus on the business side of things, who will be telling him it's a win-win for you. Whether the club sells you or not, you still go next summer. Anyway, the only other way I see Arsenal spinning this is to put a bigger money deal on the table and say Alexis stays till the end of his career at Arsenal. Match his ambition by signing maybe 1 or 2 other marquee players and position Arsenal in his sight as a club that will be challenging for not just the Premier League this season, but also the Champions League in the foreseeable future. If they can make a good pitch to Alexis, maybe he can just becoming the biggest club icon since Thierry Henry, and stay back at Arsenal instead of making that move away from the club.
Talk about marquee signing. Who are the signings he's going to make? As Wenger will want to make at this time around?
Well, I think Arsenal still need a solid central defender, and I think getting Neymar from Monaco to add to the bodies in midfield. Granit Xhaka is gradually coming into his own. Had a massive game against Chelsea in that Community Shield game, but he's still rough around the edges, especially when it comes to tackling. Coquelin, great hard worker, great engine, gets around, the pitch quite easily. But we know that, time and again, he's proven his inexperience at the highest level, especially in those big games. So they need a Kante kind of player, experienced in the tackle. He can get around very quickly. He can make pass, simply. He can link up play. He can frighten, players, especially around the Arsenal penalty area, without giving out needless fouls. So I think Arsenal need that sort of player. And then with Lacazette, the jury is still out as to whether Arsenal has solved their goal-scoring problem. If they keep Giroud and they go with a little big man combination up front when they play two attackers, maybe they may just have found a solution. But it remains to be seen how Arsene is going to set up his team this season. But if you look at the squad, it's a decent squad. It just needs 1 or 2 key additions in key areas.
Okay, so from everything you've said now, but there's still a very slight chance of
Alexis staying.
Yeah, they can give him the perfect pitch, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for the Arsenal. Now let's move on to another player whose future is a bit doubtful. That's Felipe Coutinho. Barcelona this morning, according to reports from Spain, they've had a £90 million bid rejected for Felipe Coutinho. And how about that comes to you again? Man, this money is just crazy.
Ridiculous.
£90 million for Felipe Coutinho. Good player, no doubt. But we're not going to talk about whether it's worth it or not. If you're Liverpool, won't you just cash in and try and move on?
No. If I was Liverpool, I'll be asking for more money because I know that Barcelona just got a lot of money from PSG and they have a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And their options are quite limited. There's been talk about Ousmane Dembele from Dortmund. Nah, he's not at that level yet. Coutinho looks to me like he needs to make a step up, just a notch or two, in class to be at that level. Ousmane Dembele might need 2 seasons to be at Barcelona's level. So he looks to me like, Barcelona's go-to option. Yeah. So for that reason, Liverpool will be saying, hey guys, make it 150 million. We know you just got about 200 for Neymar. Yeah.
So basically you think this is what Liverpool is up to at the moment, right? They want more money. I don't see why, let's say, for example, Barca come back with an improved bid of 150 million pounds. Probably they'll take it then.
End of day, they'll find a deal, maybe 20 million extra on top of what they are offering at the moment. And what that does for Liverpool is that already they brought in Mo Salah. They have on the other side Mane on the other side of the pitch. Through the middle, they've got Sturridge, they've got Origi, they've got Firmino. So they use that money to buy maybe a wide man. Maybe they are the guys who end of the day get Dembele from Dortmund because he's got the pace to play in the Premier League and whatnot. And then they still have extra money should they want to bring in a creative midfielder in the middle, because sometimes when the Liverpool set up, Coutinho would pop up, all over the place, but his primary responsibility is actually creating play in the middle of the pack, and that's where they'll miss him the most. So with that sort of money, they can go for 2 excellent players to fix problems in the wide areas and in the middle. Yeah,
interesting. It will be very, very interesting how Liverpool fans actually react to this one, because the coach has been on record saying, I don't want to go. So if he now goes eventually, it's going to be like the board have let him down. And how do you think Liverpool fans will react to that?
I think Klopp or whoever Liverpool's manager is will be absolutely stupid and naive to think that, with that sort of offer, it's a career progress for Coutinho. That's how the player would interpret it.
Correct.
He's been asked by arguably the best club in the world to come fill a gap left by arguably one of the best players in the world, an opportunity for him to come into his own and be one of the best players in the world. He's Brazilian again. There's a rich Brazilian culture at Barcelona. So you can't stop a player from wanting to progress in his career. And if the money is good enough, you've got to let him go and invest the money in some player.
Yes, after all, football is big business.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, so let's move on now from Felipe Coutinho. Another player whose future is a bit controversial at the moment, Virgil van Dijk. He's actually had to take situations into his hands now by handing in that transfer request. And it looks like this one is going to rumble on until the end of the transfer window.
I think he'll leave. Southampton don't exactly match this player's ambition, and he's undoubtedly one of the finest central defenders in the league. So I thought that by now they would have put a price, tag on him, judging by what the crazy figures are that are flying around. I think that they should be able to make a decent, amount on Van Dijk. If John Stones went for £50 million, I think they might be, valuing this player at maybe 55, 60 million or more, judging by the fact that he's more experienced, is a better player, in my own opinion, than John Stones. So rather than get involved in this, internal, tussle with the player, just agree that he's going to leave and name a price. And let's see whether the cities of this world can put that sort of money on the table. If they can't, then it's not your fault. The player can throw tantrums if there are no buyers, for his services.
Okay, but you can also look at it from the angle of Southampton. Southampton, they believe it's time for them to make a step up in the Premier League now. It's time for them to actually stop being contented with mid-table mediocrity. And they don't want to sell their best players like they've been doing in the last few years. Surely they've got a point as well.
But if they don't want to sell their players, there are two problems I see. One,